recently inducted into the Pennsylvania State Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Coach John Wiley is with us here this morning. And Coach, what year did you come to Titusville?
94.
94.
94, yes.
Why? Why Titusville? Why this area?
All right. A quick rundown of my coaching history. I was at Ridgeway for 7 seasons.
Okay.
Then I got offered to go back to North Hills. North Hills, I had issues where I was just never accepted as an adult. Even though I was defensive co-coordinator, we won 21 of 23 games.
Some could say that now, though.
Thank you. Hey, age is a number. You know, you never have to get old.
Right.
But I only made it through 2 full seasons at North Hills. The head coach and I had some philosophical differences. I looked at, you treat kids like human beings. He looked at them like you just use them. And so then after our playoff game, he accused an 18-year-old kid of losing a game after he had 4 chances as an adult to win the game. So I figured I had to confront that.
Wow.
And I did. And then I started looking for head coaching jobs. I ended up at Clearfield for 5 years. And at Clearfield, we had some serious budget issues and promises made, promises broken. I challenged them to stay to their promises, and nothing happened. So I moved off to Danville. And for all my former students, yes, Danville does exist. I used to get busted very badly here in Titusville about Danville, and I spent 9 seasons there. But one of the things I remember was it was the Thursday after the season. I always send flowers to my wife to thank her for all the nonsense she has to put up with. And I'm holding the phone in my hand, and AD said, "Hey, we got to go talk to the principal." And we spent a lot of time in the principal's office drinking coffee, so I grabbed my coffee and off we go. And I'm standing there with a smile on my face, and he goes, "You're fired." I go, "Oh, okay, that's good."
Wow.
So, and the irony was TJ was my freshman quarterback. And I had great kids coming. I'd gone through 2 years of pretty low numbers, pretty limited skills. And high school football is cyclical.
Sure.
There are a few programs, particularly those that get to recruit, that can be good every year. But if you're in a normal public school, you're going to have cycles where you got big, good kids, and there's other years where our problem with this year's team is we're small, but we're slow, And so I had 2 years of those, but my son's class was just loaded. Actually, when they became seniors out there, they went undefeated. But now I'm fired, literally told I'm not going to coach anymore. And that night, I taught 9 periods that day, ran the weight room after school, never said a word to anyone because the first people that were going to hear about this was the family. And I sat down to dinner and I said, "Oh, by the way, I was fired today." And it was my daughter's senior year, my son's freshman year. And I turned right to TJ and I said, "Son, now you got a couple choices. Stay here, play here. You're going to have a great career. There's great kids coming. Mount Carmel, Southern Columbia, Berwick, all close hand to Danville." I said, "Pick the school you want to play for. We'll move into that district, and I'll still teach here in Danville because my teaching career is solid. But if you want me to coach you, we got to go." And without hesitation, he goes, "We got to go."
Wow.
So then I started a statewide search. And at that point, I have to compliment Jack Fisher, a Titusville native who I never knew was from Titusville. I'd only known him as the coach from Lock Haven University. Jack and I did a lot of anti-drug presentations in the state. And excuse me, Jack calls me up and says, "Hey, we got a drug gig. You're going to come in and talk about it from the teacher-coach perspective." I go, "Well, I can talk about it from the teacher's perspective, And there was just this stunned silence on the other end of the phone. And Jack goes, "What do you mean by that, John?" I go, I was fired this week." And he goes, "Oh." I said, "So in your position, if you hear of anything, let me know." So a couple months rolled by, and I get this phone call from Jack, and Jack starts talking about Titusville. And he's rambling and talking, and I'm listening. And at this point, Luke, I was applying everywhere. I mean, I was offered the Bradford job. I had a great interview at Elizabethtown, which is kind of funny because a friend of mine was on the panel down there. And I called him up a couple days later, and I said, "How was my interview?" He goes, "Best interview we had. The only problem is you're not a wing T coach." I said, "Oh, okay. If you'd have said wing T coaches, I'd have never shown up, But I come here, and I always took my son on the interviews. so he could see the community we might move into. I have to say, TJ fell in love with Titusville. I mean, as soon as we got here. I mean, he really liked it. So we have the interview, first interview, second interview, and I get a call message in my mailbox out in Danville from Buck Crabb. Well, when I got hired at Clearfield, the superintendent called me. When I got hired at Danville, the superintendent called me. And now Buck Crabb's called me as the athletic director. So I'm thinking, oh, I guess I didn't get the Titusville job. And, I love Buck. Oh, he's salt of the earth. He goes, morning, coach. Yeah, hey, listen, we decided. And at that point, I thought he was going to say to go a different direction. He goes, you're coming to Titusville. And one of the blessings I've had in my life is having a nurse for a wife, because I've been able to move and move and move. If you have two educators, it's pretty tough to make a move to get two teaching jobs. But a nurse can get, doctor's office, hospital, whatever. So we move in, stayed in Terry Funk's house for a month, slept in his basement.
That's more than most people. About a week living with him, and you just want to get out.
Well, yeah, But again, I've told people this. What was absolutely the worst day of my life? Getting fired at Danville was the best day of my life. It got me here. Let me step back for a second. I had a team doctor that gave me the Promise Keepers book. Promise Keeper book is a Christian, male Christian-based organization. Chapter 2 says, push your prayers, P-U-S-H. Pray until something happens. Well, this was November. I didn't get hired in Titusville till almost the end of May. I did a lot of praying.
Wow.
Yeah. But so I get here, and what happens? My son meets his wife. My daughter meets her husband. I mean, I really believe it's been the greatest move of my life.
Was there ever a time when you didn't coach? I mean, was there ever a lapse in coaching, or was it always consistent?
I missed 2 years.
Okay.
In Clearfield, when I made my stand for quality with all the budget cuts, I was out for a year. And actually, I was offered the executive director's position at the Clearfield Y, and I was struggling with, am I going to leave education and take the Y? And the seniors who I didn't coach, which was a really good group of kids, they started coming to me trying to have me help them get into college. And I realized that I needed to work with kids. And then that's when I moved on to Danville.
At least keeping them from eating that 2-pound burger from Denny's Beer Barrel.
Well, yeah, that, and you have the belly buster at the Hilton, Hilton in Ridgeway, but and these ads have been brought to you by. But when I got here, one of the things that I have had to do is you inherit a lot of people that have already been here.
Sure.
Well, I found a lot of good assistant coaches here, and we had a chance to build a program around the idea that, I'm the head coach, but you are specifically, totally responsible for your area of responsibility. Nothing I hated worse as an assistant coach would be told to do something, and then the head coach either goes ahead and does that or changes what you do. Like when Mike Reynolds was my line coach, I would say to him, who are my starters? I never said, here are the 5 starting linemen. How would I know that? I didn't do the drills with them. I delegated to the point where I wasn't even aware sometimes of the student athletes' positions. My first year in Clearfield, we had a kid by the name of Andy Swales as a center. And I'm really struggling in the third game film watching him. And I turned to my line coach, I go, why is Andy stepping with the wrong foot? And he goes, Coach, he's only a sophomore. That was the first I knew he was a sophomore, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Give me your 9 best players, for the for the hog and line package and the best for your skill package, and let's just go to war, But the group of kids, TJ comes in as a sophomore, and it's always tough for the head coach, because your kid better be better than the kids they're playing against, because if they're equal and he's playing, then it looks like favoritism, And TJ grew up with our offense. Until the day I die, I'll never forget this. We stepped into the huddle the first day, and I go, I go, lightning right action, lightning pass right on two, ready, break. And TJ started out of the huddle, and I started out of the huddle, and the other 10 kids are standing there going, say what? Because there's a language to be learned, and that's part of the teaching process. But then you take that coin and flip it over. TJ had a great advantage in football here because he was in my program. First day of basketball, he comes home. That's it. They didn't teach me anything out in Danville. I stink. I'm terrible. I don't know anything. And I said, well, son, there's a couple things. First, and I reminded him what happened the first day of football. And I said, and the second, you made a mistake. You went to the first day of practice. You can't quit. Now, you can not play next year, but you see this season out. And then, of course, he played all 3 years. It's just getting to coach your son is a great blessing and a mild curse at the same time. But then to have him go to Teal, for 4 years, I saw every college football game but one. Warren was playing a home game that I had to scout, and I missed one of his games his freshman year. Other than that, I made all of his college games. Joe Chalmers gave me permission to let the team come home with the assistant coaches from Erie one night. Kathy drove up to Erie for the game. We jumped in the car and drove all the way across the state because they were playing just south of Manhattan Saturday morning. And saw that game, turned around, came back, had our coaches meeting Sunday, and got ready for the next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back. I want to ask you some questions during your coaching time here. Today, every couple of years you've got the realignments. I always enjoyed the consistency, the rivalries that were developed by playing these teams, and not just in the in football, but in other sports. Yep. And you not only play them in football, for example, but you'd play them in basketball or baseball, and you'd follow them throughout the year. Right. So maybe they beat you in football, but by basketball season you were going to take them. We have this conversation all the time. We miss those rivalries. Yes. And the histories there. You were coaching during most of when that was still in place. Talk about some of those rivalries. Who are some teams that you look forward to playing every year? One year you might win, one year you might lose, but it was always a fun challenge.
The playoff and the realignment to me has been the tail wagging the dog all along. My comment has always been, you're only guaranteed the 9 games you get to play or the 10 games you get to play on your schedule. So play the best 10 teams you can. The TCAC conference was awesome. I mean, first year I'm coaching a home game against Meadville. There were a few seconds left in the half, and I go into hurry-up offense. And one of my assistants goes, Coach, going in at halftime, losing 7-0 to Meadville is not too bad. Wait, I still have time on the clock. Let's work here a little bit. And doesn't TJ complete a pass to Jeremy Snyder, and he goes 58 yards for a touchdown, and we went in at halftime tied, And it just seems that high school football or high school sports has followed the pro ranks. When I was a kid, the Pirates were the same 9 guys my whole childhood. I could tell you who was going to be in right field, left field, And then they got free agency. And now they just shuffle around. And this realignment every 2 years, it just drives me crazy. Because like you say, here's the thing. We play football against Meadville in October. You play basketball against them mid-December, mid-January. Well, they're the same kids. You start to know them kind of on a personal level. One of the things that used to drive people crazy is they would ask me who somebody's name was on an opposing team. I just knew them by numbers. I felt if I knew their name, that kind of made it too personal. 23's a tailback, 16's a quarterback. The situation of losing this year in, year out local competition. Titusville, Oil City. Oh, my God. I mean, that was as good as it gets. Franklin, it's funny that Oil City and Franklin sit so close to each other because the kids there are just different.
Right.
The Oil City kids are gritty, and the Franklin kids are kind of country clubbish. Not that they're not tough kids, because Franklin took it to us a couple times, but they're just different kids. We got to play the inner city schools, but the best game I coached here was the Mud Bowl against Warren. I mean, that game,
which is still talked about.
Oh, it has to be talked about. They're undefeated. We're 7-1. It was just the perfect matchup. And then, of course, they have turf sitting up there and worn unused, and we're playing on our Cinta mud. and the way they just took off on us. But there again, you have to have faith in your assistants. We score. They score in 2 plays. We fumble. They score in 1 play. We throw an interception. They score in 2 plays. So now in 5 offensive plays, they've scored 3 times. I walked past Coach Tridico and I said, Coach, we're going to slow these people down here tonight? And he looks at me dead serious and he goes, oh, we have them now. And I thought, that's pretty bold talk from a defensive coordinator that's giving up 21 points, you know. They did not have another first down until the 4th quarter final drive.
Wow.
Yeah. So many things just came, that group of kids, we had talked all year about a score a quarter. If we can get 28 points, there's not going to be many teams that can beat us. Well, we scored in the 1st quarter. We scored right before half. So we're right on track. We're losing 22-14 at halftime. I walk in the locker room, just absolute focus. No panic. Everybody's locked in. And to say I knew we were going to win would be kind of, a stretch. But I knew that it was a game that was worth, the second half, and this is going to be fun. And we went out that second half, and that group of kids they bought into the idea. They stayed with the idea, and of course we ended up scoring 1 every quarter, and then we scored 2 in the 4th quarter and put them away.
So, looking back, that was the game.
I would say of the time I was here. Well, of course, the first time we beat Oil City. My son's senior year, we lost his sophomore year, his junior year, and then his senior year, we're only winning by 6, and he picks a pass. My son picks a pass within the final minute of the game, and ironically, he's running straight towards me, ball in hand. Here he comes, and I yell, "Stay in bounds," because I wanted that clock to keep rolling. And he immediately turns and starts back into the field, and he got shillelaghly. And my one assistant coach goes, "How can you do that to your son?" And I looked at him, I go, "Not my son. He's my safety." And that's the way, T and I always had a situation where when we were at practice, it was player coach. And when we were home, it was father son. And we were always able to keep that. Now, the dynamics has changed where he's the head coach and I'm his assistant. And, I do the things that I think assistants should do. I pick up,
Do you bite your lip at times?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I bite my lip in that I think he's wrong, but sometimes I think I could add to the flavor, and I think, right. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. But the thing he has taken from me, and this was something, again, I learned as an assistant. There were times I just wanted to speak to the team, and the head coach would go, "Blah, blah, 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 hit the showers." And I'd be standing there going, God. Yeah. So, and you can ask any of my former assistants. We ended practice every night with a team huddle. I would speak to them for a few seconds, and then I would give each coach a chance to say something if they had anything
I remember
to say.
that after the games because
Exactly.
I was doing wireless mic. You would always let the coaches add to the conversation.
You had to bring up the wireless mic,
listen, I have to say this about you. Whether you won, whether you lost, I was a high school kid who had you in school.
Yes.
I was also doing radio, doing the wireless mic Friday nights for football games. And no matter what the situation was, you always treated me with respect. And I think deep down, even though it was a great win or a horrible loss, you still made time to say, "Hey, I'll give you a few seconds to talk."
Well, there was an ulterior motive for that, though, because remember, every Saturday you gave me coffee.
That's right.
I would take my student drivers out and we'd hit the radio station, and of course I was telling the students that they were practicing parallel parking.
Of course.
And they would, they'd park, and then I'd jump out of the car and they'd all be sitting there like, "What's going on here?" And I'd run over to the door and you'd hand me the cup of coffee and off we go.
I'll never forget, first time driver's training with me, I jump in and you're like, "You have your license, right?" I said, "Yeah." "All right, let's just drive."
All I have to do is just check you out. Because the thing is, and people have asked me this about driver's ed, how did you do that for 40 years? Give me a student that's never been in the car. I mean, he's a blank slate. You know,
Right.
the ones that are in trouble are the ones that have been driving for a while because they've had time to develop bad habits.
Right.
And again, a habit becomes muscle memory. You know, you stick your finger inside the wheel to turn the wheel with the spoke. You know, that's what you're used to doing when I'm trying to teach you hand over hand, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, I enjoyed. One of the things I had said to myself at the beginning of my teaching career is I was not going to be one of those guys that got to the end of the trail and got bitter. And Titusville offered me so many great opportunities. To end my teaching career, teaching exactly what I wanted to teach in physical education, being the bus driver that took the PE classes down to the sports complex. I mean, I jokingly say I was living the dream, but that's what I was doing. I mean, the day I retired, I was as happy about teaching as the day I started.
Coach, show us the ring.
Oh, this is the Hall of Fame ring. That camera over there?
Yep.
This is the Hall of Fame ring.
Wow.
And when I first went up to the table to register down in Harrisburg, he was sitting with a ring, and he goes, "Hey, Coach, you get a ring." And I thought this was a demo. Like, you know, this is what it's going to look like, but it's going to be like regular human size. And then he hands me this ring, and it's basically knuckle to knuckle. And I really wear it today just because of the interview. It's not something I just wear just to wear around. And my wife jokingly says, you know, if you wear that to bed and swing me and hit me, you're going to knock me out cold, you know. And it's a great honor. And I mean, I'm humbled beyond understanding. But again, I want to stress I didn't get here alone. I've worked with great coaches. Here's an interesting point. My first year as head coach, I'm 30 years old. I'm sleeping on the cement floor of my assistant coach's apartment because Kathy was still in Pittsburgh. The second week, the third week, the fourth week, the sixth week, the eighth week, and the 11th week, I coached against guys who are all on this list right here, the list of the Hall of Famers. So as a puppy rookie coach, 6 of my 11 games, I'm going against Hall of Famers. And, you know, you didn't know then that they were all going to end up in the Hall. But the interesting thing about the Hall of Fame is you just don't know. I mean, again, that phone call, Mr. Wiley, Mr. Wiley, yes. You're going to talk to me about football, say, "Hey, Coach, you know,
Right.
let's get it on a sports basis at least." The other thing is, and you can talk to any of my assistants here. The first year I went to a coaching clinic with this group, they didn't understand that I had been coaching and, you know, the number of places I'd been in the state and the number of people I'd known. I go to the coaches clinic and I'm saying hi to all these people. "Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach." And it was Tom Hancock. I'm almost positive it was Tom Hancock. He goes, "How do you know all these people?" I said, "Well, those two I've never seen before, but at a coach's clinic, you just say, 'Hey, Coach,' and you got it right."
You got it right, yeah. Hey, Coach, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations.
Thanks, Luke.
What an
I
honor.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.